They say Alaska is a land of breathtaking beauty, towering glaciers, endless wilderness, and skies painted with northern lights. But beneath that frozen silence lies something far darker. From haunted gold mines buried in ice to ghost towns swallowed by the sea, Alaska hides stories that will chill you to the bone. Tonight, we're uncovering 15 of the most haunted places in the last frontier, where the cold isn't the only thing that will make your blood run icy. On Eklutna Cemetery, Anchorage, hidden deep within the quiet woods outside Anchorage, lies the eerie Eklutna Cemetery, a place where wooden spirit houses painted in bright colors stand above the graves, guarding the souls beneath. At first glance, it looks peaceful, almost sacred. But as the sun sinks behind the Chugach Mountains, the air thickens, and the silence turns uneasy. Locals say the cemetery is home to restless spirits, victims of an ancient mix between Native Alaskan and Russian Orthodox traditions. Some claim to hear chanting in a language no one understands, echoing softly through the birch trees. One night, a traveler parked near the gates reported seeing faint blue lights floating between the graves, hovering, then vanishing when approached. Another visitor described a shadowy figure standing beside a spirit house, motionless, watching. When he tried to take a photo, his camera froze, and later, every image showed nothing but static and a faint outline of a face where no one stood. According to a local historical record, the cemetery was once investigated after visitors repeatedly complained of voices in the wind and footsteps circling their cars. The report mentioned that even daytime visitors sometimes felt a sudden, icy breath behind them, only to turn around and find the path empty. Today, Eklutna Cemetery is a stop on several haunted Alaska tours, drawing those brave enough to walk among the graves after dark. But the question lingers, are the spirits truly watching over their resting place, or warning us to stay away? 2. Fort Richardson, Anchorage. Just outside Anchorage, surrounded by dense forests and icy winds, stands Fort Richardson, once a proud military post, now whispered about in hushed tones by soldiers and locals alike. The base was built during World War II, and though many who served there have long gone, some say not all of them ever left. On moonless nights, guards have reported hearing the rhythmic sound of boots striking pavement, perfectly timed footsteps echoing through empty corridors. But when patrols check the area, they find no one. One former soldier described waking to the sharp command of a drill sergeant outside his barracks, yet the barracks had been sealed for years. Another swore he saw a lone soldier pacing the old parade ground, his uniform outdated, his eyes hollow. When the man called out, the figure vanished into thin air, leaving behind only the scent of gunpowder. A published account once detailed an investigation into strange activity at Fort Richardson: flickering lights, malfunctioning electronics, and cold spots forming in sealed rooms. Visitors to the old officers' quarters reported unseen hands knocking on doors and shadows crossing the hallway, though no one else was there. Even now, the base remains active. But many soldiers refuse night duty near the abandoned sectors. Some say the spirits of those who never made it home still stand watch, loyal to the very end. And as the northern winds whisper through the barracks, one can't help but wonder who's still guarding Fort Richardson after all these years. Alyeska Ski Resort, Girdwood, nestled among the snow-covered peaks of the Chugach Mountains. The Alyeska Ski Resort glitters like a dream in winter's moonlight. But behind its postcard beauty lies a chilling legend that locals never tell tourists. When the night grows silent and the lifts stop moving, workers claim to hear laughter echoing from the slopes. though no one is out there. Some even speak of ghostly skiers gliding effortlessly across the powder, leaving no tracks behind. Years ago, an avalanche swept through one of the resort's back trails, trapping several skiers beneath tons of snow. Their bodies were recovered days later. But ever since, strange things have happened on that very run. One snowboarder reported seeing a man in an old red jacket waving for help near the edge of the trail when rescuers arrived. There were no footprints, no one in sight. Another night, a lift operator said he saw the same red jacket hanging from an empty chair, swaying gently in the wind. A local newspaper once covered a series of unexplained incidents at Alyeska electrical malfunctions, radios picking up faint cries for help, and security cameras showing movement on closed slopes. Some staff members quit after claiming to hear names whispered through their headsets late at night, names of people long dead. Today, the resort still thrives, filled with laughter and music by day. But when the last guest leaves and the mountains fall silent, those who remain sometimes see shapes moving against the snow just beyond the floodlights. Could it be the mountain's memory? Or are the lost skiers still searching for their way home? Bootlegger Cove, Anchorage. On the edge of Anchorage, where the icy waters of Cook Inlet meet the rocky shore, lies Bootlegger Cove, a place as beautiful as it is haunted. Locals say that when the tide rolls in and the fog drifts low across the water, you can hear the faint echo of voices' cries that don't belong to the living. This quiet neighborhood hides a tragedy that time has never erased. During the devastating 1964 Alaska earthquake, entire sections of Bootlegger Cove slid into the sea. Homes, families, gone in an instant. Fishermen tell stories of strange lights glowing beneath the water at night, as if the lost houses are still standing somewhere below. One man claimed that while rowing across the cove, he saw a woman standing ankle-deep in the surf, staring blankly toward the city. When he called out to her, she disappeared, leaving only ripples in the tide. Another resident spoke of hearing footsteps on their porch at 3 a.m., followed by the sound of a door creaking open, though their door was locked tight. A public safety report once documented multiple calls from residents describing low moaning sounds and figures moving through the mist after dark. Investigators found nothing but noted the unusually high frequency of electrical failures and cold spots around the same time each year on the anniversary of the quake. Today, Bootlegger Cove looks peaceful, with its cozy homes and sweeping ocean view. But when the fog rolls back in and the wind howls through the broken cliffs, some still believe the lost souls of 1964 returned to reclaim the lives they once had. The question is, when you hear footsteps outside your window, are they from the living or the ones who never left? We're at Oscar Anderson House Museum, Anchorage. Perched on a quiet bluff overlooking Cook Inlet, the Oscar Anderson House Museum seems charming. Its white walls and red roof, a proud reminder of Anchorage's early days. But when night falls, this century-old home transforms into one of the city's most haunted places. Built in 1915 by Oscar Anderson, one of Anchorage's first settlers, the house witnessed love, loss, and death within its walls, and some say those emotions never left. Visitors touring the museum have reported feeling sudden drops in temperature and the faint scent of cigar smoke lingering in rooms where no one has smoked in decades. Others have seen doors slowly creak open by themselves, or heard footsteps pacing the upper floor when the building was empty. One guide swore she heard a deep sigh coming from the old kitchen, followed by the faint sound of humming. like someone finishing a day's work long ago. A feature in a local paper once described the museum's haunted reputation after staff members experienced objects moving on their own, lights flickering, and a heavy presence watching them during evening tours. Paranormal investigators who later visited recorded disembodied voices and captured unexplained orbs floating through the narrow hallways. Today, the Oscar Anderson house stands preserved as a piece of Anchorage history. Yet even as tourists admire its antique beauty, some claim to feel unseen eyes following them from the upstairs window. Could it be Oscar himself, still keeping watch over his beloved home, or something far older, bound to the very bones of the house? 6. Lake Hood Floatplane Base, Anchorage. By day, Lake Hood hums with life, the world's busiest seaplane base, its waters shimmering with takeoffs and landings against the Alaskan sky. But when the engines quiet and the sun dips below the horizon, the lake takes on another life, one that whispers of tragedy and loss. Locals say Lake Hood never forgets those it's taken. Beneath its calm surface lie the memories of pilots and passengers who never made it home, late at night. Mechanics working near the hangars have reported hearing the whine of plane engines starting up when every aircraft was grounded. Others have seen a faint blue light moving across the water, shaped like a plane gliding silently just above the lake's surface, vanishing before it reaches the shore. A fisherman once told of seeing a pilot standing on the dock at dawn, staring out over the mist. He greeted the man, but the figure turned, smiled faintly, and disappeared into thin air. A news feature once documented repeated reports of ghost flights at Lake Hood, unexplained radar blips, radio interference, and the sound of distress calls that traced back to planes long lost. Even the control tower staff have admitted hearing phantom transmissions, call signs belonging to pilots who died decades ago. Today, Lake Hood remains a hub of adventure, filled with laughter and the roar of engines. But when the fog drifts in and the lake falls silent, some say you can still hear the faint crackle of a radio and a voice calling through the static requesting landing clearance. The question is who's still flying over Lake Hood long after their final flight. The 7. Dyea Ghost Town, Chilkoot Trail. Hidden in the shadow of Alaska's rugged mountains lies Dyea, a once booming gold rush town now swallowed by silence. Over a century ago, thousands of fortune seekers passed through here, their dreams glittering as bright as the gold they chased. But greed and tragedy left this place hollow. When the Chilkoot Trail avalanche of 1898 buried dozens of travelers alive, Dyea began its slow descent into death, and some say the dead never left. Today, moss-covered ruins and half-sunken graves are all that remain. Hikers who camped near the trail have reported hearing the faint clatter of wagon wheels and muffled shouts in the distance, as if an invisible caravan were still climbing toward the pass. Others tell of ghostly lanterns flickering through the trees, moving in steady lines up the old trail, phantom prospectors forever chasing gold that will never be found. A historical journal once detailed investigations into strange encounters at Dyea, footsteps crunching on empty paths, tents being unzipped by unseen hands, and eerie voices carried on the mountain wind. Park rangers have confirmed repeated reports of cold spots and sudden drops in temperature around the old cemetery, especially near the graves of the avalanche victims. Now, nature has reclaimed the town, but the air still hums with echoes of the past. When fog rolls through the valley and the wind sighs over the abandoned docks, travelers swear they hear the cries of the lost calling from the trail. And as you walk through Dyea's ghostly silence, one question lingers. Are you the only living soul there? or just another traveler passing through the spirit's gold rush. 8. Buckner Building, Whittier. Deep in the mist-shrouded port town of Whittier stands the colossal Buckner Building, a concrete giant left to rot beneath the Alaskan rain. Once hailed as the city under one roof, it was built in the 1950s to house soldiers and civilians alike. But after the massive 1964 earthquake cracked its walls and filled its halls with seawater, the building was abandoned, and what was left behind has become the stuff of nightmares. Those who dare to enter describe an unsettling silence, broken only by dripping water and the echo of their own footsteps. Some claim to hear whispers reverberating through the endless corridors, soft voices calling names, or faint laughter that dies abruptly. One explorer reported hearing a piano playing somewhere deep inside, though every floor he checked was empty. Another swore he saw a shadow move across the hall, tall and slow, before it melted into the concrete wall. A published report once described rescue teams hearing screams within the Buckner during post-quake searches, only to find no one alive. Paranormal groups who later visited captured cold spots, unexplained voices, and distant banging from sealed rooms. Even locals say the building breathes at night, the sound of air moving through the cracked pipes, or something else. Now, the Buckner stands decaying, its windows shattered, its walls streaked with salt and time. The city warns visitors to stay out, but some still slip inside, drawn by curiosity or darkness. And when the storm winds rush through its hollow halls, one can't help but wonder, is it the building groaning, or the ghosts of Whittier still trapped inside their concrete tomb? Pilgrim Hot Springs, Seward Peninsula, far from civilization, where the tundra stretches endlessly beneath a pale northern sky, lies Pilgrim Hot Springs, a place of beauty, warmth, and unbearable sorrow. Steam rises from the earth, curling around the decaying remains of old log cabins and a weathered church. But beneath that soothing mist lingers a dark story. In the early 1900s, the springs were home to an orphanage run by missionaries. Disease and isolation turned it into a place of quiet suffering, where many children died and were buried nearby. Visitors say the land still remembers. Some who walk among the ruins claim to hear the faint sound of children's laughter carried through the steam, followed by sudden, chilling silence. Others have seen small handprints appear on fogged windows of the abandoned buildings, though no one else was there. A traveler once woke in the night to the sound of splashing water outside his tent, only to find the hot springs empty and the prints of barefoot children leading toward the forest. A regional publication once documented paranormal activity at Pilgrim Hot Springs, strange electromagnetic readings, untraceable voices, and unexplained lights glowing over the graveyard on winter nights. Even researchers sent to study the geothermal waters admitted feeling watched, describing the overwhelming sense of sorrow thick in the air. Today, the springs attract visitors seeking peace and warmth, unaware of the history buried beneath their feet. But when the fog rolls low and the laughter returns on the wind, one can't help but wonder, are the children still playing? Or are they trying to be remembered? 10. Independence Mine, Hatcher Pass. High in the Talkeetna Mountains, where snow blankets the jagged peaks and wind howls through forgotten tunnels, lies Independence Mine, a ghost frozen in time. Once a bustling gold camp in the 1930s, it thrived with the noise of drills, shouting miners, and clanging machinery. But when the war came, the mine was shut down almost overnight, leaving behind only empty shacks, rusting tools, and whispers in the dark. Visitors who explore the ruins after sunset say the place never truly sleeps. Some report hearing the echo of pickaxes striking stone deep underground, long after the tunnels were sealed. Others have seen lantern lights swaying through the fog, as if miners are still searching for veins of gold that will never be found. One hiker claimed he heard a voice shout fire in the hole just before a blast of cold air knocked him to the ground, yet no one else was there. A regional newspaper once covered the site's haunted reputation, after tourists and rangers described equipment moving by itself and footprints appearing in fresh snow leading to boarded-up shafts. Paranormal teams later recorded metallic bangs, ghostly murmurs, and faint singing echoing through the empty mill. Today, Independence Mine stands as a historic park, beautiful, desolate, and eerily still. But when the fog creeps down from the mountains and the air smells faintly of dust and oil, those who linger too long swear they feel eyes watching from the shadows of the tunnels. Could it be the spirits of miners still chasing their last strike? Or something much older, buried deep beneath Hatcher Pass? 11. The Slide Cemetery, Skagway. Tucked away in the dense forest outside Skagway lies the Slide Cemetery, its moss-covered gravestones marking one of Alaska's most haunting tragedies. This small burial ground was created after the devastating avalanche of April 3, 1898, when tons of snow and rock thundered down the Chilkoot Trail, burying dozens of stampeders on their desperate quest for Klondike gold. The survivors carried the bodies here, and ever since, the wind that whispers through the spruce trees carries the weight of their unfinished journey. Locals say the air around the cemetery feels different, heavier, colder. Hikers passing by after sunset have reported faint cries echoing from the mountains, like men calling out for help through the storm. Others have seen dim lantern lights flicker between the trees, drifting slowly toward the graves before vanishing into the dark. One traveler described seeing a shadow kneeling beside a headstone, sobbing quietly when he approached. There was no one there. Only a single footprint in the snow. A historical account once mentioned rescue workers returning to the site years later, claiming they heard muffled voices beneath the snow, long after the avalanche had settled. Even modern-day visitors have experienced sudden waves of dizziness and sorrow near the graves. Some say it feels as if the ground itself is still mourning. Today, the Slide Cemetery rests in silence, a memorial to ambition and loss. But on cold nights when the mountain fog descends and the wind howls through the trees, travelers swear they can still hear the cries of the fallen stampeders. And one question chills every visitor who dares to enter: are the dead still trapped beneath the snow? Or are they walking among the living, forever seeking the gold that cost them their lives? 12. Treadwell Ruins, Juneau. On Douglas Island, across the channel from Juneau, the forest hides what's left of the once mighty Treadwell gold mine, a place that glittered with promise before it was swallowed by the sea. In 1917, disaster struck the mine's tunnels, flooded without warning. Collapsing beneath the miners' feet, dozens were trapped underground, their bodies never recovered. Today, all that remains are rusting steel beams, crumbling concrete walls, and whispers that rise with the tide. Visitors who wander through the ruins after dusk speak of strange sounds, metallic clanks echoing from the earth, as if the machinery still grinds beneath the surface. Some have seen ghostly figures walking along the shoreline, wearing soaked mining clothes, their eyes pale and hollow. One local photographer claimed that while taking pictures of the old pump house, he captured faint silhouettes of men standing in the mist, none visible to the naked eye. A public record once described rescue divers hearing rhythmic pounding coming from the flooded shafts. though no one could explain how. Decades later, paranormal investigators reported electromagnetic spikes and disembodied voices calling out from the mine's depths. Even nearby residents say that on calm nights, they hear the sound of pickaxes striking rock beneath the waves. Now, nature has reclaimed the Treadwell Ruins, covering its bones with moss and silence. But when the tide creeps in and the water laps against the broken walls, some say the miners still work below, forever trapped in pursuit of the gold that drowned them. And as the mist thickens over the shore, one can't help but wonder, what if the mine never truly closed? 13. Portage Ghost Town, Whittier area. Deep in the shadow of the Kenai Mountains lies Portage, a town swallowed by time and tragedy. Once a peaceful settlement surrounded by glaciers and dense spruce forests, Portage was destroyed by the massive 1964 Alaska earthquake. The ground dropped 6 feet, flooding the town with salt water. Homes, schools, and lives were lost in an instant. The survivors fled, leaving behind a drowned world of tilted houses and ghostly remains half buried in mud. But some say not everyone left. Travelers passing through the ruins have reported hearing faint piano music drifting from the abandoned schoolhouse, though the building has long since collapsed. Others describe seeing lights flickering inside sunken homes, moving slowly from room to room. One hiker claimed that while exploring the overgrown streets, he saw a woman standing ankle-deep in the marsh, her face pale and motionless. When he blinked, she was gone, leaving only ripples in the water. A published field report once mentioned repeated sightings of shadow figures around the old railroad bridge, along with sudden temperature drops and the overwhelming scent of seawater. Even on dry days, local tour guides quietly warn visitors not to stay after dark, saying the tide carries voices, whispers of those caught by the quake and pulled beneath the waves. Today, only the skeletons of buildings remain, slowly sinking back into the earth. Yet when the mist rolls in from Turnagain Arm and the wind moves through the drowned trees, many swear they hear the echo of a town still alive beneath the water. And the question haunts every traveler who visits: does Portage rest in peace? Or is it still trying to rise from the depths? Near a 4E Pump House restaurant, Fairbanks, along the banks of the Chena River in Fairbanks, stands the historic Pump House restaurant, a place where fine dining meets ghostly company. Once a bustling pump station in the early 1900s, it fueled Alaska's gold dredges, keeping the riverboats running and the miners' dreams alive. But beneath its warm lights and laughter, something else stirs, a presence that refuses to fade with time. Staff members have whispered of glasses shattering on their own, silverware rearranging itself, and cold drafts sweeping through the dining room when every door is shut. Some servers claim to see a man in an old-fashioned engineer's uniform standing near the bar, silently watching. When approached, he vanishes into thin air. One late-night employee swore she heard footsteps pacing in the upstairs hallway long after closing, followed by the faint sound of machinery grinding, like engines that haven't run in a century. A local newspaper once covered the pump house's paranormal reputation, describing guests who reported flickering lights, unseen hands brushing their shoulders, and whispers coming from the walls near the old boiler room. Paranormal investigators who later visited recorded unexplained temperature drops and the faint echo of a man's voice calling out over the hum of the kitchen. Today, the restaurant remains one of Fairbanks's most beloved spots, filled with warmth, music, and the scent of grilled salmon. Yet when the crowd thins and the river fog curls around the windows, Some diners feel a chill run down their spine as if the past still lingers in every beam and brick. And one can't help but wonder when you raise your glass at the pump house, who might be toasting with you from the other side. Number 15. Chatanika Gold Dredge, Fairbanks, just north of Fairbanks. Hidden among the birch trees and tundra grass, rests the rusting skeleton of the Chatanika Gold Dredge, a hulking relic of Alaska's golden age. Once the heart of a booming mining camp. Its massive gears and iron buckets devoured the earth in search of fortune. But when the machines fell silent in the 1950s, something else seemed to awaken. Locals say the dredge didn't stop working, it just changed what it was digging for. Visitors who wander too close after sunset speak of metallic clanging echoing from within the hollow shell, though no wind stirs and no one is there. Some claim to see a dim light moving behind the cracked windows, like a lantern swinging in a miner's hand. One traveler reported hearing the rhythmic grind of the dredge's engines roaring to life, followed by a man's desperate voice yelling, "Shut it down," before everything went dead silent. When he returned the next morning, fresh boot prints led into the dredge, but none came out. A regional publication once featured accounts from paranormal investigators who recorded electromagnetic spikes, sudden bursts of static, and faint voices repeating the same word, gold. Even nearby residents have reported seeing the dredge's reflection glowing on the water at night. Though the structure itself stood dark and still, now, the Chatanika Gold Dredge sits sinking into the earth it once conquered, its rusting frame creaking like a dying beast. Tourists visit for photos, unaware of the echoes beneath their feet. But when the night fog rises and the air fills with the scent of oil and metal, some swear the dredge begins to stir again, still searching, still digging. The question is, what is it looking for now? These frozen lands hold more than history. They hold secrets, whispers, and restless souls that refuse to fade. Whether it's the miners of Treadwell, the spirits of Bootlegger Cove, or the soldiers of Fort Richardson, Alaska's ghosts are everywhere, waiting for the next traveler who dares to listen. So tell me, if you found yourself alone beneath the northern lights, and you heard footsteps crunching in the snow behind you, would you turn around?